When Jimin couldn't stand up, Jungkook knelt in front of him, and the world seemed to stop. Get up. Jimin, please, just get up. Jungkook's voice cracked as his knees hit the cold stage floor, skidding slightly on the smooth surface. He didn't care about the cameras. He didn't care about the tens of thousands screaming his name, or the blinding lights above. All he saw was Jimin, collapsed, unmoving, breath shallow and eyes barely open, as if the life had been drained from him mid-performance. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. 1 second, they were dancing in perfect synchronicity, sweat glistening under stage lights, bodies moving like poetry against the rhythm. The next, Jimin stumbled on his own step, faltered, then crumpled like paper under pressure. No warning. No chance to catch him. Just the echo of his body hitting the floor and the collective gasp of an arena gone silent. Jungkook's hands trembled as he cupped the side of Jimin's face. His skin was ice. His lips, just moments ago singing with him, were tinged a shade too pale. Hyung, Jungkook whispered, voice barely above the pulse pounding in his own ears. Talk to me. Jimin didn't answer. But his fingers twitched. A single, fragile movement that made Jungkook's chest tighten. He looked up, locking eyes with Namjoon standing frozen nearby. Shock and panic distorted his features, but more than that, guilt. Behind them, the screen continued to flicker with visuals. The music had stopped. Staff scrambled onto the stage. Jin's voice shouted something from the wings. Hoseok was yelling, but Jungkook didn't hear. All the sound seemed to fold inward, collapsing into silence around the spot where Jimin lay, and Jungkook remained kneeling as if anchoring him to the earth. It was like time paused, not metaphorically, but viscerally. The crowd held its breath. The heat of the stage lights seemed to dim. Jungkook felt something ancient stir in his gut, a sense of dread that went deeper than fear. He remembered the night 3 weeks ago when Jimin had walked into their dorm, eyes red and jaw clenched, refusing to say where he had been. He remembered the argument. The screaming. The accusations Jungkook hadn't meant to throw. The way Jimin had said, in a voice cold and distant, some things are bigger than us. And then silence. Since then, Jimin had avoided his gaze. Practiced longer. Slept less. Smiled only for the cameras, and now this. The paramedics pushed past him. Jungkook didn't move. He couldn't. Not until a soft hand touched his shoulder, and Yoongi whispered, "You have to let them help him." He did. But when they lifted Jimin, something fell from his pocket, just a folded, sweat-stained piece of paper. Jungkook grabbed it without thinking, fingers curling around it as if it were part of Jimin himself. He only read it backstage, while chaos unfolded around him. A set list. Handwritten, but it wasn't theirs. It was from an old showcase, 6 years ago. Their first time performing as trainees. The ink had smudged. There were hearts drawn beside Jungkook's name. And at the bottom, a note in rushed, uneven writing: "I think they're watching me again. If anything happens, don't believe what they say. Please. Keep dancing." Jungkook's breath caught. His vision blurred. What was this? A cry for help? A goodbye? He looked up as the medic returned, face grim. His stable. For now. For now. The words sliced through Jungkook like knives. Outside, the arena remained dark. Inside, questions roared louder than the music had ever been. What had Jimin been hiding? Who were they, and why? In that one moment when Jimin couldn't stand, had the world felt like it was holding its breath, waiting for Jungkook to choose what came next? He looked down at the note again, and he knew, this was only the beginning. "You lied to me." Jungkook's voice, usually smooth and melodic, came out hoarse, like it had clawed its way through fire. He stood in the hospital hallway, cold fluorescent lights flickering above him, his fists clenched so tight his knuckles burned white. The note trembled in his grip. His eyes were fixed on Namjoon, whose arms were crossed but whose expression betrayed unease. "I didn't lie," Namjoon replied slowly, choosing each word like a man walking barefoot across shattered glass. "I just didn't tell you everything." "Same damn thing." Jungkook's voice exploded down the corridor, bouncing off sterile walls and making a nurse flinch behind the reception desk. "You knew something was wrong. You saw it, he was withering, and you let him keep performing like nothing was happening." Yoongi placed a calming hand on Jungkook's shoulder, but he shrugged it off. His body radiated rage. Grief. Helplessness. He begged us not to get involved, Namjoon said quietly. He said if we interfered, it would only get worse. He was protecting us. From what? Namjoon hesitated. His eyes shifted slightly, as though watching something behind Jungkook. But there was nothing there except silence and white walls. Yoongi exhaled through his nose. You saw the note. You already know more than most. Jungkook turned to him, voice trembling now. That's exactly why I'm not letting this go. You don't write something like that unless you think you might not make it out. The door to Jimin's room creaked open, and Jin stepped out. His face was a storm of emotions: relief, confusion, anger, and something else. Fear. He woke up, he said. Asked for Jungkook. The others went still. Even Jungkook froze for half a second before his feet pulled him forward as if by instinct. The hospital room was dim, drawn curtains softening the sun into pale shadows. Machines beeped slowly, steadily. Jimin lay propped up, and four in his arm, a bandage on his temple, and eyes that looked far older than they had 2 days ago. You came, he murmured, voice barely more than breath. Jungkook sat down at the edge of the bed, still clutching the note in his hand. Why didn't you tell me? Jimin's gaze dropped. His lips pressed into a thin, bloodless line. You were always too good at knowing when I was lying, he whispered. So I stopped talking. Jungkook swallowed the lump in his throat. You collapsed on stage. You could have died, Jimin. And I don't even know who the hell you're running from. Jimin looked up. And in that moment, Jungkook saw a flicker of something dark in his eyes. Something hunted. Haunted. There's a contract, Jimin said finally. Not the kind you sign with ink. The kind you sign with silence. Jungkook furrowed his brow. What the hell are you talking about? Jimin reached toward the nightstand, slowly. From under a folder of medical forms, he pulled out a photo. It was old, grainy, taken from behind a van. 3 men in suits. One of them was holding a USB. The other had his hand on a boy's shoulder. Jimin, younger, thinner, his face pale and eyes wide with terror. They used to follow me after practice, Jimin said. Said I owed them something from before the debut. Something I promised and never delivered. That makes no sense, Jungkook muttered, scanning the photo. You were a kid. That didn't stop them. A silence fell between them, heavy and suffocating. They said if I spoke up, they'd come for the others. For you. Jimin's fingers twitched. That's why I kept dancing. Because as long as I was on stage, they let me be. Jungkook stood, heart hammering. We're not in some damn spy movie, Jimin. This isn't how the world works. No, Jimin said, and now his voice was brittle glass. But it's how their world works. You think fame protects us? It makes us vulnerable. We're walking, breathing leverage. Outside, someone knocked, 2 soft raps. Then silence. Jungkook turned. No one was there. Did you tell anyone else? He asked. Jimin's hesitation was a dagger. Just Hobie. Months ago. He tried to dig into it. Jungkook's blood ran cold. And he stopped. Said he found something he wasn't supposed to. Then he got that ankle injury. Jungkook backed away, suddenly feeling like the room was shrinking. We need to go to the police. No. Jimin's voice cracked like thunder. You don't get it. This doesn't go away by telling the truth. That feeds them. The door opened again. Yoongi this time. Something's wrong. The hospital's front desk just received a call. No caller ID. They asked if Park Jimin was still alive. Jimin's heart monitor spiked. Jungkook stared at him, realization dawning like a slow horror film. This is bigger than you, he whispered. Jimin nodded, and now they know I'm involved. Yeah, Jimin said. Now they'll come for you too. Jungkook turned toward the window. Outside, a black sedan had parked across the street. The engine still running. He stepped closer, eyes narrowing. In the back seat, a silhouette. Watching, waiting. He turned back to Jimin, his voice no longer shaking. Then we don't run. Jimin blinked. We fight. The heart monitor beeped faster because now it wasn't just about a collapsed performance. It was about secrets built beneath the spotlight, and they were done dancing around the truth. What do you mean, fight? Jimin's voice broke through the thick tension like a trembling string, taut and too close to snapping. His eyes bore into Jungkook's, wide with disbelief, shadowed with fear. You think this is some playground game? These people don't lose, Jungkook. They erase. Jungkook didn't flinch. He stood tall now, backlit by the dim light filtering through the hospital window, jaw locked in a way that was no longer youthful defiance, but something harder, deeper. Something born of watching someone you love fall apart in silence. They've already erased you, Jimin. Bit by bit. I watched it happen. You were disappearing in front of me, and I pretended not to see it. Jimin looked away, ashamed. That ends now, Jungkook said. The door burst open, and Hoseok stepped in, limping slightly, hoodie pulled low, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. They're not watching from across the street anymore, he said, voice clipped. They're in the building. Silence dropped like a guillotine. How do you know? Yoongi asked, already moving to the window. Hoseok held up his phone, a CCTV screenshot. 2 suited men entering the hospital lobby. Faces blank. Expressionless. The kind of blank that says, we've done this before, and we'll do it again. Security's been bought, Hoseok added, looking directly at Jimin. Just like last time. Namjoon swore under his breath. We need to move him. Now. No, Jungkook snapped. We don't run. Yes, we do, Yoongi growled. You don't understand, Jungkook. We tried this before. When Jimin first came to us. We threatened legal action. We called labels. You know what happened? Nothing. Except 3 of our stylists got in a car crash a week later. 2 broke their spines. You think that was coincidence? Jungkook's chest tightened. He looked back at Jimin. That's why you shut down. Why you buried everything. Jimin said nothing. His silence was confirmation enough. Namjoon paced like a cornered animal. They own people in the industry. Not just execs, journalists, cops, doctors, hell, maybe even fans. You think if this gets out, anyone will protect us? Then we go underneath the story, Jungkook said suddenly, mind racing. We use the stage. Use our fame. Every eye on us. No names, no details, just enough truth to light the fuse. Enough to make them flinch. Yoongi shook his head. They'll cut the feed. Control the press. Jungkook smiled, dark, cold, defiant. Not if we livestream it ourselves. From burner devices. Multiple locations. Let the fans carry it. Let the story break in 1,000 pieces they can't control. Jimin looked stunned. You'd risk everything? Your career, your safety, for me. For us, Jungkook said. You're not the only one they marked. The air shifted. Something electric. A quiet storm building in the corners of the room. Suddenly, Jin's voice crackled through a walkie Yoongi kept on him from earlier. They're on the 3rd floor. Moving fast. Panic surged. Yoongi tossed Jungkook a hoodie. Get him out the back. There's a laundry chute. Seriously? Hoseok blinked. Unless you want the men in suits to carry him out in a bag. Yeah, seriously. Jungkook was already moving. He yanked off Jimin's heart monitor gently but fast, ignoring the beeping alarms. Jimin winced, but didn't resist. The fear in his eyes had shifted, no longer a rabbit frozen under headlights, but a soldier bracing for war down the hall. Footsteps echoed. Sharp. Purposeful. Namjoon opened the back door and peered down the emergency stairs. Clear, go. They ran down 3 flights. Past cleaning staff too startled to speak. Into the boiler room. The chute was rusted, tight. Jimin stared at it. You're not serious. I'm dead serious. Jungkook helped him climb in. Slide feet first. Curl your arms in. Try not to scream. Try not to. Jungkook shoved him. Jimin disappeared with a hollow clang and a muffled curse behind him. Footsteps thundered closer. Jungkook turned, heart pounding. Then he jumped in after him. They landed hard on damp linen in a basement bin. Jimin groaned. That was the worst plan. Jungkook kissed him. A moment stolen between chaos and collapse. The taste of sweat and iron and fear. Jimin froze, then melted. It lasted only a heartbeat. We're not dying before we finish this, Jungkook said, out of breath. Not like this. Not silent. Jimin stared at him, dazed. You kissed me in a laundry bin. You stopped breathing on stage. I'm allowed one dramatic gesture. A door slammed upstairs. Jungkook pulled Jimin up. They slipped through the shadows, into the alley behind the hospital. Rain had started to fall, soft at first, then heavier. The world blurred. A black van waited inside. Taehyung. He rolled the window down, sunglasses gleaming under the storm. You guys always make an entrance. How'd you know? Jimin asked, shocked. Taehyung handed him an old camcorder and a flash drive. I've been watching them watch you for a long time, he said. Thought it was about time someone started watching them back. The engine roared, the storm thickened, the road ahead was dark, but for the first time in months, Jimin wasn't running alone. He had brothers. He had a voice, and he had a plan. The beat was still alive beneath his ribs, and it was almost time to let the world hear the truth behind it. Tell me this isn't real, Jin said, his voice quiet, shaky, barely holding back the hurricane that threatened to rip through him. Tell me we're not sitting in a goddamn motel room, hiding from people who want to destroy us. They don't want to destroy us, Taehyung replied from where he sat, slouched against the moldy wall, fingers spinning a pen between them with eerie calm. They want to control us. They always have. Same difference, Hoseok muttered, staring blankly at the cracked television screen, the news blaring static and silence. Either way, we're not safe. The motel room stank of cigarettes and mildew. One naked bulb swung above, casting shadows that twitched with every gust of wind through the broken window seal. 7 voices, once the heart of sold-out stadiums, now whispered beneath the hum of cheap fluorescent light, hunted by silence. Jimin sat in the corner, knees pulled to his chest. The camcorder Taehyung had given him was now clutched like a lifeline between his palms. His thumb hovered over the play button. But he couldn't press it. Not yet. Jungkook stood behind him, pacing. Every step was a declaration of urgency, frustration, fury. We can't keep sitting here. We can't keep hiding. This isn't us. This is fear talking. Namjoon looked up, his voice as cold as the wind slicing through the paper-thin walls. Then what is us, Jungkook? Being martyrs on livestream? Dying for a cause we haven't even defined? Jungkook spun around. No one's dying. That's exactly what they want us to believe. That we can't win. That we can't fight back without blood. But what if we're smarter than them? How? Jin snapped. You have some magical plan that doesn't involve us ending up buried under a media scandal or worse. Jungkook didn't flinch. We tell the truth. Hoseok laughed. Harsh. Bitter. Truth doesn't matter when no one believes you. Jimin's voice finally broke through the noise. They'll believe it if I sing it. Silence. Jimin stood. The camcorder dangled from his hand, his knuckles pale from the grip. No more posts. No more cryptic messages. No more fear. We do what we do best, we take the stage. We sing. And this time, we don't sing what they told us to. Taehyung raised a brow. You're thinking comeback? Not just a comeback, Jimin said, something unshakable in his eyes now. A confession. Jungkook's chest lifted as he stepped beside him. A guerrilla showcase. Unannounced. One night. One stage. One truth. Yoongi's head tilted. You realize what you're proposing will burn every bridge we've built. Namjoon's voice was lead. And if we're wrong, if no one listens, then we go down with our song, Jimin interrupted. But at least we won't go down silent. The room vibrated with the weight of their decision. Fear, yes. But also a glimmer of defiance. Of unity. Taehyung smiled slowly. Then we'll need a venue they can't touch. I know a place, Yoongi murmured. Abandoned theater in Itaewon. Used to be a jazz club. Closed down 5 years ago after some scandal no one talks about. No cameras. No eyes. Just ghosts. Perfect, Jimin said. Preparations began that night. Calls were made. Burner phones passed hand to hand. A set list was scribbled across a torn bedsheet. Not the hits. Not the choreography polished numbers they'd performed 1,000 times. This was raw. Personal. Dangerous songs they weren't allowed to write. Lyrics they were told to throw away. Memories poured into melody of being silenced, watched, manipulated. of crying behind closed doors while smiling on camera. The next evening, they broke into the theater. Dust coated the red velvet seats. The chandelier above was cracked, crystals missing, like shattered stars. The stage creaked with every step, but still held strong. Just like them, Jimin stood center stage, looking out at the empty room. Even if no one shows up, he whispered, I'll sing like they're all here. Someone will show up, Jungkook said, placing a hand on his shoulder. They always do. That night, whispers spread like wildfire online. Cryptic tweets. Leaked coordinates. Hashtags that trended and disappeared within seconds. Fans around the city started to gather. Quietly. Cautiously. By midnight, the theater was packed wall to wall. No lights. No security. Just 7 silhouettes emerging from the shadows. Jimin took the mic. The others stood behind him. He looked at the crowd. Many had phones out, but none were recording. As if they understood instinctively, this wasn't content. This was testimony. My name is Park Jimin, he said, voice raw. And for years, I've been hiding a truth that wasn't mine alone to carry. Murmurs. A sharp intake of breath. He closed his eyes, then he sang. A song of control, of hands in the dark pulling strings. Of papers signed in fear. Of cameras that watched when they thought they were alone. His voice cracked once, but he didn't stop. When he reached the final note, there was no applause, only silence. Then, one voice, somewhere in the back. We believe you. And another. And another, we believe you. The wave rose, slow and unstoppable, until it filled the room. Tears slipped down Jimin's cheeks. Jungkook stepped forward, took the second mic. The truth isn't something they gave us permission to tell. So we stole it back. And then they performed, not for fame. Not for charts, but for survival, for freedom. Outside, the city watched through live streams that fans risked everything to broadcast. Hashtags surged again. Not just fans this time, but journalists, activists, people who had always felt something was off about the glittering facade. But even as the movement sparked, so did the danger. Across the city, a phone buzzed in a darkened office. They went live. A voice crackled through the speaker. Then silenced them for good. The screen went black. The lights went out mid-chorus, not just in the theater. The entire block plunged into darkness. Street lamps died, neon signs fizzled into silence, and the only illumination left was the blue glow of phones as fans gasped and murmured, the livestream stuttering into static. Jungkook froze mid-step, breath caught in his throat, the mic trembling slightly in his hand. Did we blow the fuse? Hoseok whispered, blinking at the sudden void. No, Yoongi answered, already moving toward the back of the stage. This was intentional. The theater seemed to inhale, a collective breath of confusion and fear. Then, the doors slammed shut. 1. Then 2. Then all of them. Screams rippled through the crowd. Not chaos, not yet. But the beginnings of it. Phones went up like fireflies in the dark. Some tried to push toward the exits, only to find metal latches sealed from the outside. Jimin stepped forward, grabbing the mic again. Everyone, stay calm. We're going to fix this. His voice echoed through the black, a fragile tether. Taehyung appeared at his side, lips tight, eyes sharp. Someone just cut the main. They didn't just kill the power, they severed it. Jin moved closer. There's an emergency exit behind the left curtain. Still open. Namjoon spoke fast. We need to get the crowd out quietly. If they panic, someone's going to get trampled. I'll guide them, Taehyung said, pulling out a flashlight. Jin, Hobie, you help him. Yoongi, find the breakers. Yoongi was already gone. Jungkook grabbed Jimin's hand, pulling him behind a speaker column. You need to stay out of sight. Jimin ripped his hand back. No. I'm not hiding. Not now. This isn't about pride. Someone planned this, Jimin. The power outage, the lockdown, it's a warning. Jimin's chest heaved, and for a second his bravado cracked. Then why does it still feel like we're too late? From somewhere in the theater, a scream rose, raw and piercing. Jungkook's blood went cold. A man had appeared near the side aisle. Dressed like everyone else, but too clean. Too calm. No phone in hand. No panic. Just watching. Then another, near the rear doors. One of the girls near the front stumbled back and whispered, he was outside the hospital. Jimin didn't wait. He leapt onto the stage again, mic back in hand. I want everyone to turn to someone next to them. Hold their hand. Stay with them. You are not alone. We're not going to let fear take this moment. His voice rang like fire in the dark. The crowd shifted, hesitant at first, but then hands reached for hands. Strangers became a chain. Someone began humming the melody from the last song. Soft. Fragile. A kind of bravery. Then the emergency lights kicked in. Dim red strips flickered along the floor edges, revealing the layout and the faces. There were 5 of them. The men in suits. Positioned like chess pieces across the exits. Calm. Watchful. Yoongi's voice cracked through their in-ear comms. They disabled the breakers. It wasn't just power, they hardwired a jam into the system. There's a relay broadcasting on a closed signal. Military grade. Where are you? Jungkook whispered. Basement. Found the source. Taehyung's voice followed, low and tight. There's a van outside. Blacked out windows. No plates. They're waiting. Jungkook's pulse hammered in his ears. Jimin saw one of the suited men move, his hand sliding into his jacket. I'm going down there, Jungkook said. Jimin stepped in front of him. No. Let me. Are you crazy? Jimin didn't blink. I know what I'm looking for. This was always about me, Jungkook. Let me end it. Jungkook wanted to scream. Instead, he stared at Jimin like it might be the last time. Then he leaned in and whispered something no one else heard. If Jimin's face paled, he didn't show it. He nodded once, then vanished through the stage trapdoor. The theater held its breath. Yoongi met him in the basement. The air down there was cold, metallic. The hum of a hidden generator pulsed through the floor. In the center of the room, an unmarked black box, cables coiled like serpents. Broadcasting there, Yoongi pointed. That's the jammer. It's feeding from an external signal. Someone's coordinating this from outside. Jimin moved to it, pulled the flash drive from his pocket, the one Taehyung gave him. He slid it into the USB port. What the hell are you doing? Yoongi hissed. Jimin didn't look up. Giving them something to see. The feed burst to life, not in the theater, but everywhere else. Every major platform. Every live feed. Every social channel synced to their fans. A looping video played, footage from years ago. Hidden cams. Conversations. Pressures. Signatures under threats. Contracts that weren't legal, but enforced by fear voices. Names. Dates all cut with clips of the boys crying in dressing rooms, breaking down during rehearsals, blooded knees, vomit-stained shoes behind the stage. Truth wrapped in melody. Back upstairs, phones exploded with notifications. Comments. Gasps. They leaked it. Someone just dropped everything. Inside the theater, the suited men shifted, visibly agitated. One of them reached for his earpiece, then turned and walked out. The others followed. Yoongi stared at the screen in disbelief. You just released everything. Jimin exhaled, slow and long. Now they don't own the silence. Behind them, the device sparked, hissed. Overloaded smoke began to rise. Time to go. They emerged onto the stage just as the crowd erupted into cheers, not applause, but release. Taehyung grinned at them. Guess you missed the fireworks. The bastards ran. Jungkook met Jimin's eyes. You did it. No, Jimin said, voice shaking from adrenaline. We did. But then Namjoon's phone rang. A number none of them recognized. He answered, and his face drained of color. He handed the phone to Jimin without a word. A voice came through. Smooth. Unfamiliar. You think truth wins this war, Jimin? Cute. But we're not done yet. Then the line went dead. The threat lingered like smoke, and just like that, the real game began. Jimin stared at the dead phone in his hand. The silence that followed was louder than the crowd's cheering had ever been. His heart pounded, not from fear but from clarity. The line had been crossed. The performance was no longer a shield, it had become a weapon. And someone out there was ready to strike back. Who was it? Jungkook asked. Jimin lifted his eyes slowly. Not one of the suits. Someone higher. Higher. Namjoon stepped in. How much higher can this go? Jimin swallowed. Do you remember that contract negotiation in 2018? When we were suddenly told not to attend the meeting because of legal complications? Jin stiffened. You're saying that was them? I'm saying that was the first time I was told to shut up or lose everything. And it didn't come from a manager. It came from a man who didn't give his name and never looked me in the eye. Yoongi sat down heavily on one of the edge stage steps. So it goes up the ladder. Past our label. Past the companies. All the way into someone with real power. It always does, Taehyung said. The entertainment industry isn't controlled by who's in the spotlight. It's controlled by who can turn off the lights. They all fell silent. Even the adrenaline had begun to fade now, leaving only the raw nerves underneath. The fans were still chanting outside. Not just cheering, but organizing. The footage had spread like wildfire. "We Hear You" trended in 80 countries. Thousands of fans gathered outside company headquarters. But that wasn't enough. The ones watching from the dark didn't care about fans. They didn't care about loyalty, or truth, or songs that meant something. They cared about silence. A knock on the back door made everyone freeze. No one moved. Jungkook was the first to step forward. He pressed his back to the wall beside the door, held up 3 fingers, and nodded. Point 1.2. He pulled it open fast, lunging, and nearly punched the man standing there. But it wasn't a suit. It was a kid. Maybe 19. Shaking. Sweat dripped down his temple. He held a brown envelope in one hand and a phone in the other. I was told to give this to Jimin. Jimin approached slowly. "Who told you?" "I don't know his name," the kid stammered. "He said if I didn't deliver it, they'd do to me what they did to my cousin." "What did they do?" Jin asked, stepping forward. "They made him disappear. Just, gone." Jimin took the envelope, eyes fixed on the boy. "Go. Don't stop running until you're home. And don't speak to anyone on the way." The boy nodded, eyes wide, and ran. Jimin tore the envelope open. Inside, a single photograph. It was Jimin, taken from a high angle, probably a drone, just 2 nights ago. He was at the hospital window, speaking to Jungkook. Written across the bottom in black marker, "You forgot your place. We'll remind you." And tucked behind it, a bullet. No gun. Just the bullet. Polished, clean, symbolic. The room was silent. Nobody breathed. Taehyung took the bullet in his hand, weighed it, then flung it across the stage. It bounced off the wall and clattered to the floor like a punctuation mark. "We need to disappear," Namjoon said finally. "All of us. Go dark for a while." "No," Jimin replied. "No?" Namjoon blinked. "They're threatening to kill you." "What do you mean no?" Jimin's voice cracked but didn't waver. "That's exactly what they want. For us to vanish. To let the fear swallow us again. If we run now, we prove them right." Yoongi exhaled through his nose. "What do you suggest?" "We can't just livestream again. They'll start targeting the fans. The ones who showed up tonight. Their photos are probably already in some database." "We don't livestream," Jimin said. "We go further." Jungkook watched him carefully. "What do you mean?" Jimin walked to center stage, stared at the empty rows of seats as if they were filled with the faces of ghosts. "We take back everything. The songs. The shows. The system. We find every trainee they blackmailed. Every artist they silenced. Every voice they crushed, and we bring them together." Namjoon laughed bitterly. "You're talking about a revolution." Jimin turned to him. "No. I'm talking about justice." Jin crossed his arms. "How would we even start?" Taehyung grinned. "We already did. Tonight." Jungkook moved beside Jimin. "Then we keep going. One venue at a time. Unannounced. Underground. Pop-up concerts that double as exposés. And we leak everything we find," Yoongi added. "But on our terms. No media. Just raw footage, stories, confessions." Namjoon rubbed his temples. "You know they'll send someone after us." "They already did," Jimin whispered. "Now we send something back." The phone buzzed again. A text this time, blocked number. It simply read, "Tick. Tark" attached, a picture of their dorm. Window shattered. Room trashed. Yoongi clenched his jaw. "They're not subtle anymore." "We don't need subtle," Jungkook said. "We need to be louder than them." Jimin looked at the others. Each of their faces worn, exhausted, but alive. Still standing. He raised his mic again. No more curtain calls. No more fake smiles. No more protecting a system that tried to destroy us. Then he dropped the mic. It hit the stage floor like a gunshot, and the war truly began. Rain slashed against the windshield as the black van cut through the back alleys of Seoul. The city blurred outside, neon reflections dragging across the wet streets like smeared paint. Inside, the air was thick, hot with breath, cold with fear. No one spoke for the first 20 minutes. They were all thinking the same thing. It wasn't just about them anymore. The photo of the ransacked dorm sat on Jimin's lap. His fingers kept twitching, folding and unfolding the edges. That dorm had been their safe place. A decade of memories, arguments, laughter, breakdowns. It had been sacred. And now someone had violated it. I had an original lyric book in my closet, Yoongi muttered from the front seat. Unpublished. Unreleased. Gone now. They wanted to erase more than just a warning, Taehyung said. They wanted to take history. Namjoon turned in his seat to face them. We need to stop pretending this is still about music. This is warfare. Psychological. Economic. They don't want us ruined. They want us erased so they can rewrite the narrative. They can try, Jimin said, voice hoarse but unwavering. But I'm not going quietly. Jungkook was silent beside him, but his hand found Jimin's beneath the photograph. Their fingers locked. Jin finally snapped. Do any of you even get what we're risking? This isn't a movie. There's no guarantee anyone's coming to save us. Jimin turned to him. Then we save ourselves. By doing what? Jin shouted. Dropping cryptic songs and hoping the world pieces the puzzle together before someone puts a bullet through your head. Exactly that, Jungkook said, and no one missed the tremble under his steel tone. Because staying silent is worse. Yoongi looked back at them in the rearview mirror. I've been digging into the system. I found names. Shell companies. Money trails. They lead into politics. Law enforcement. Even a few media CEOs. So we blow it up, Jimin said. Taehyung's brow lifted. You mean that metaphorically, right? Jimin didn't answer. Yoongi handed a tablet over his shoulder. On it, a map of Seoul, marked with red pins. Each pin is a location where an artist either vanished, was blacklisted, or mysteriously pulled from a debut. Cross-referenced with corporate ownership, almost all of them point to a front company, Miru Holdings. Namjoon's jaw clenched. Miru Holdings was one of our first silent investors. They've been in our shadow since day one. And that's who the man on the phone works for, Jimin said. They've built an empire out of controlling creators. Hoseok leaned forward. What if we cut off the head? There was a beat of silence. Namjoon stared. You're talking about confronting them directly. I'm talking about exposure, Jimin said. Miru Holdings owns a private event space in Gangnam. They're hosting an exclusive industry gala tomorrow night. No press. No live streams. Just influence in a cage. Taehyung grinned. You want to crash it? Not crash, Jungkook corrected. Hijack. They arrived at a safe house, a rooftop studio once used for late-night rehearsals during their trainee days. It was dusty, but intact. The city buzzed beneath them like a restless hive. They were above it now, literally and metaphorically watching, waiting. The plan came together in the stillness of that room. The strategy wasn't perfect. The risks were ridiculous. But they had something stronger than logic now. They had purpose. They split up to prepare. Taehyung and Hoseok would pose as event staff. Former contacts pulled strings to get them on the gala's security list. Yoongi would handle the tech, disrupt the internal comms, hack the CCTV, and plant devices to broadcast audio externally. Namjoon and Jin would coordinate extraction and leak the live feed directly to a list of international journalists known for taking dangerous truths. Jimin and Jungkook, they would walk in the front door. The next evening arrived fast, pulled by adrenaline and fire. Jimin wore black. Not tailored, not polished. Raw. His shirt frayed at the collar, rings heavy on his fingers. Jungkook mirrored him, piercing gaze, tension in every step, jaw locked like a weapon ready to be unsheathed. As they entered the marble lobby of the Miru Tower, eyes turned whispers, They weren't expected, and yet, no one stopped them because no one ever expected them to fight back. The elevator doors opened to the top floor. A grand hall of glass and gold. People in gowns and suits. Crystal chandeliers reflecting the sheen of corruption, then silence, as Jimin stepped forward, mic already in hand. You think because we sing, we're easy to silence. Gasps. Phones raised. Security started to move. Jungkook pulled his own mic from his jacket. We gave you everything. Our bodies. Our voices. Our souls. And you thought you owned them. Yoongi's voice came through the earpieces, comm channels cut. You're live. Lights above flickered. Audio system cracked. Then, broadcast. Not through the hall.to the world.to every device within the city grid, audio beamed directly through hidden networks. Live, Jimin raised his hand. Tonight, we name you. Screens flickered to life, names. Faces. Leaked memos. Audio recordings. You locked us in contracts meant to fail, Jungkook shouted. You sabotaged careers before they began. You buried suicides under exhaustion. You fed on dreams and spat out machines. Chaos exploded. Some attendees tried to run. Others screamed. Security scrambled. But the broadcast had already begun outside the building. Crowds gathered, listening through hacked frequencies. Fans. Journalists. Former idols inside. A man in a grey suit approached slowly. Calm. Too calm, I warned you, Jimin, he said. Jimin turned to him, chest heaving. You threatened me. The man smiled thinly. You're still a product. Still replaceable. Jungkook stepped between them. Not anymore. The man's hand moved to his coat. A glint of metal. Yoongi's voice screamed in the earpiece. Gun, now. Before anyone could react, a loud crash echoed through the hall. Taehyung, swinging a steel lighting rig, tackled the man to the floor. Gun clattered across marble. The crowd erupted. Sirens howled in the distance. Namjoon's voice. Police and press en route. Your faces are on every screen. You're not ghosts anymore. Jimin looked down at the man, blood pooling beneath his head. He raised the mic. You wanted silence. His voice trembled. Now listen to the sound of a world waking up. And he let the mic fall again, but this time it didn't sound like a gunshot. It sounded like freedom. Rain began to pour in sheets as the Miru Tower was flooded with flashing red and blue. Sirens wailed like the end of a song no one had dared to write. The police cordoned off the building as officers flooded the lobby, but they were too late to stop what had already happened. The truth was out. Live streams were still rolling from hidden feeds. Every leak, every name, every face that once operated in the shadows now shone under the merciless glare of exposure. It was unfiltered, unedited, and undeniably real. Inside, chaos unraveled like ribbon at a funeral. Jimin stood still on the shattered glass stage, his breathing uneven, his body aching from days of adrenaline, guilt, and fear. But he stood. His knees, which once collapsed beneath him, now held steady. He stared at the fallen man on the marble, one of the architects of their silence. He was still alive, but unconscious. Security had fled. The elite guests were gone, their designer shoes echoing in the stairwells as they fled like roaches from a kitchen light. Jungkook stepped beside him. There was a cut on his cheek, blood drying in a line down his jaw, but he didn't wipe it. His hand found Jimin's and held it tight. He didn't need to speak. They had said everything they needed to. Yoongi emerged from the back hall, a flash drive clutched in his palm like a detonator. Every file. Every surveillance log. Every contract. Archived. Distributed. Jin followed, breathless. Journalists confirmed. The stories already airing. Global. Headlines in 20 minutes. Namjoon walked in last. And we're free. Those words didn't feel real at first. Free, Jimin whispered, but freedom wasn't weightless. It came with the sharp sting of loss. Of what they had sacrificed to reach it. Their careers were over. Their stage, shattered. The system would never welcome them back, but for once it didn't matter because what they built next wouldn't be for money, fame, or chart positions. It would be for truth. They stood there, 7 of them, soaked in sweat and rain and blood and rain again. The echoes of their confession still vibrating through the bones of a city that had for so long looked the other way. Taehyung picked up the dropped mic and raised it toward the ceiling. The sound system had cut out long ago, but it didn't matter. The world was already listening from outside. The roar of the crowd rose, a wave of people who refused to be silenced anymore. Fans who had become witnesses. Witnesses who had become believers. And believers who had become warriors of truth in their own right. Jimin walked to the edge of the shattered stage. His gaze swept the skyline and he sang .no instruments, .no lights, .no autotune, just his voice fragile. Raw. Human. The others joined him one by one. 7 voices, wounded and defiant, blending into a harmony that had no label, no genre, no cage. It wasn't a comeback. It wasn't an encore. It was a eulogy for the silence. And a lullaby for the system that tried to kill them. The rain slowed as the last note faded into the city. Somewhere far off, in a quiet room, a different man watched the footage unfold. He didn't speak. Just leaned forward and whispered into a phone. They survived. The reply was a long silence. Then let them. A new game is beginning. But for now, for tonight, Jimin and the others stood on a ruined stage and didn't run. They didn't hide. They didn't break. They simply stood together. And for the first time in years, the world saw them not as idols, or products, or myths, but as men.es truth. And as the kind of story that can never be erased, not even by fear, not even by power, not even by silence. The end.